Hey everybody, it's your old pal Mike. Hope you're happy, healthy, and safe, and I just wanted to make a very quick video about one of the coolest guitars I have worked on in ages. This is an original 1966 Fender Jaguar in my favorite of the rare custom colors, charcoal frost metallic. This is fantastic to see in all of its glory IRL. I'm going to do my very best to get the color correction right on this video so that you can see just how special and unique this color is. This guitar came into me for a setup, and it definitely needed one pretty badly. There was an original shim in here, which is great, one of the thin red ones that you see in this era. However, it wasn't quite enough, and because there wasn't a second shim in there, the neck was incredibly far away from the strings, and the bridge, even at its lowest adjustable point, was just far too high for comfortable playing action, especially up the neck. And not only did the setup go very well, but I was able to literally have the action. It was measuring at 0.140 inches, which is the highest possible measurement on this StewMac string action gauge, and I was able to get it all the way down to 0.75 on the low E and 0.7 on the high E. Actually 0.65 if I'm not mistaken. Oh no, we're down at 0.6. Really comfortable medium-low action, which is slightly higher than I like it myself. But yeah, 0.75 and right on 0.6. So I think this guitar is going to play a lot better for its owner. Now with this guitar, you're going to be seeing all of the standard CBS 1966 Fender features, including the bound blocked rosewood fretboard, and this is a really lovely example. You're going to see the slightly thicker peg head in a minute. You're going to see the white plastic pickguard, which replaced the mint that you see in earlier years. And that's really about it as far as big sweeping changes. But really, I just wanted an excuse to talk about this finish, which is just brilliant in person. Proper charcoal frost metallic is not simply a regular middle-of-the-road metallic gray. It is in fact just a little bit bluer and darker than you're going to see on most modern examples of this color. And in fact, I've got a modern one right here. Now, if you're no stranger to this channel, then surely you've seen my Curtis Novak 12 pickup loaded 1963 refinished Jaguar with a 65A width neck. This is a guitar that I really love. I've beat to hell over the years. I've thrown it. It's a fantastic instrument, and it's perfect for my purposes because I had it refinished in charcoal frost metallic by the glorious, the inimitable Joe Riggio here in Tacoma, Washington. Joe's refins are incredible. They are some of my favorites on the market, and I cannot recommend him enough if you're after a vintage color. However, through no fault of his own, this little comparison does highlight a difference between modern charcoal frost paint and the originals. Now, the modern charcoal frost is a much more gunmetal sort of finish. It's a lot grayer. It's a lot more, I want to say, neutral as a gray goes, whereas you can see the original charcoal frost is just a bit bluish green. And that makes it such an attractive color to me. And also, the new charcoal frost is a little bit brighter overall, which is fine. You know, I was looking for a guitar that was close enough that I could beat up a little bit. I'm not super worried about it not being the exact right color. That doesn't bug me enough. And again, Joe did a fantastic job with this. In fact, he refinished this guitar twice because it had a ton of red dye in the body and it bled through. And he was able to get rid of most of it, but you can see the nail hole down here. You can still see the red dye bleeding through, so that's just a thing that's going to happen on my guitar. But now that we're done comparing charcoal frost metallic to modern charcoal frost metallic, I would like very much to tell you a little bit of a story about this particular guitar. Now, as I said, this is a great example of the original charcoal frost metallic finish. This is a wonderful picture into what this color might have looked close to when it left the factory floor. However, to say this is 100% original would be false. Now there are two, well really three things about this guitar that have been changed since it left the factory. Number one, the mute foam and the pickup foam, you know, what allows you to adjust the height of the pickups. That stuff should always be replaced at this point. It degrades into a gooey, sticky mess, and you know, it doesn't work as height adjustment foam anymore. So if you get a vintage guitar that has that gooey old ass foam in it, just toss it. Like, don't worry about it. I want to tell you that originality is great, but it should not come at the expense of functionality, and that is what we've done here. We have replaced the pickup foam, and before it came to me, the mute foam was already replaced, so that's great. Number two non-original thing is this vibrato arm, which is actually mine off of my other Jaguar here, so please don't let me forget to take that back. Please remind me in the comments, and I will remember. I hope. Oh my God, I hope. But the third thing about this guitar that is not entirely original, well, I'm sorry to say, is the clear coat. Now, the clear coat itself is original, but it has been altered. And the reason for that is that charcoal frost is one of those colors that seems to show age so much more than other Fender custom colors. Like a candy apple red will lightly age to a sort of orangish red, or in extreme cases it will fade completely to something orange gold related. That certainly happens. That's, I think, what inspired the Johnny Marr metallic knockout finish. Lake Placid blue will often change to a nice green hue because of the clear coat turning yellow over time. But charcoal frost, in my book, shows it more than any other color because it turns often to, in the best case, sort of a metallic olive, but in the worst case, it will turn to this disgusting sort of metallic brown, kind of reminiscent of every 1970s wood paneled room you've ever wandered in as a kid. Like just thick layers of nicotine over everything. And we can see this in a few areas on this body. I want to show you, can you see this right here? How green this is. Let me adjust the focus. Can you see right here that there's a little bit of a hint of green? And that is the clear coat aging. And we can even see it, yeah, on some areas in the back. Let me once again refocus the camera. Sorry, this is last minute. I've only got just a little bit of time left with this instrument, and I want to make the most of it. But you can see here in the light that this right here has turned quite green, and that's not because it's aged unevenly. That's because this clear coat has been sanded down just a little bit to remove a lot of this, which is kind of sad because I don't know if it's coming off on camera, but the charcoal frost finish has sort of an eggshell texture where it's been buffed away, whereas the original areas that are still very green, very olive, are very smooth, like a vintage finish should be. So you can see it there, you can see it here. On the body contour, you can see some of that old clear coat still existing. Down here is much greener, but the place you can see it the most is actually the headstock. Now, if you take a look at this headstock, you should immediately see a few things that make it very clear that some funny business has happened here. And I'm getting some glare from the back wall here. That's actually helping my case, I think. Let me zoom in just a little bit more. There we go. Now you can see that this headstock matches the body. It is charcoal frost, it is original. It has that same eggshell texture because this has been buffed or wet sanded. And you can see that most clearly around the holes for the tuners, which still show some of that brown nicotine gunk around it, but most prominently at the decal. Now this decal does indeed tell us that this finish has been buffed or wet sanded because it still retains quite a lot of its original texture here. In fact, those areas are sticky, whereas the brighter charcoal frost areas are not. And yes, my finger smells like nicotine. So yeah, that's definitely what's going on here. So this logo is surely faded, and underneath the logo you can kind of see the color that this finish might have turned to at one point before it past the point of no return with nicotine. But what tells us that this guitar has indeed been wet sanded or buffed is that the Jaguar is partially worn away here. And this is part of the detective work that often comes along with being a guitar tech, because you have to look at things like this and say, what were they thinking? What were they attempting to do before you dig in and try and repair things? Now, I'm going to be leaving this the way it is, because why mess with a good thing? You know, if it were mine, maybe I'd invest some more of my resources in trying to like even out this the texture of the finish as well as the color, but I digress. Now you can see that someone certainly tried to wet sand here and ended up taking part of the Jaguar logo with it, and then the patent numbers below the Fender here are also gone. So you see this big brown area here is left because it looks like someone just said, you know what, not worth the trouble, I'm giving up. And that's good because, you know, a replaced decal sometimes is just a replaced decal, but it also leads to questions of authenticity. So you've got to dig a little deeper. Now this guitar, I've seen the neck pocket. It is completely original, save for the little bit of work that's been done to the clear coat. Now, does this make this a less desirable guitar? Hell no. I still want this. I would be proud to own an original charcoal frost of my own, but it's just an interesting part of this guitar's story. Oh, I didn't even notice that the offset contour body portion of the logo is also completely rubbed off. So we've got this brownish green area right here where that part of the logo would exist. Yeah, so that's pretty interesting. And, you know, vintage guitars often tell a story, and it's really cool to be able to kind of experience one and figure it out for myself here. So once again, just an incredible, incredible instrument. Big shout out to Mike for letting me have a crack at this very cool instrument. It plays beautifully, and I'm honored to have your trust with such an incredible guitar. Now, I would very much like to give you a proper sound demo of this thing, and I'm debating not doing that. It's not a time issue. I've got just enough time to finish this video off and get that done. The reason that I don't want to do that is because this finish not only has the wet sanding thing going on, but like so many other vintage finishes, this one is kind of gummy. Now, this is certainly a thing that can happen with vintage instruments, depending on where they were kept or climate, or, you know, maybe the finish never fully properly cured when it left the factory. These are all things that happen. If it sees any moisture, you'll know immediately because the finish will start blushing. And what I mean by that is that a little bit of moisture will get between the clear coat and the colored coat, leaving behind a ghostly, pale, whitish, greenish sort of tint that you can't really see through. It's almost opaque. And that's something that goes away within a few minutes. You usually don't have to worry about it. If you're playing guitar and you sweat on it and you leave a little bit of a mark, just give it, I don't know, 3-6 minutes, something like that, and it should clear up on its own. And if not, you may need to use some blush remover if it's particularly persistent. Now this finish, even just working on it the other day, was doing that heavily, and so I hesitate to spend any time really playing with it because it's pretty hot in Seattle right now. Not as hot as other areas of the country. Global warming, pretty fun, but yeah, it's been doing it enough to where the more I handle it, the more worried I get that it's going to leave my care in a different condition than it came in. So I'm not super jazzed about that idea. And in fact, when I was intonating the guitar, I always intonate upright. That's just a better way to do it because of the way gravity affects the neck. And it came out great, but while I was doing it, it was so hot, it started blushing because of where my shirt was touching it, and my heart dropped immediately. Oh no, have I ruined this finish? And thankfully it cleared right up. It really did just go away on its own. But because of that, yeah, I am not so keen on spending a lot of time playing this. I've only played it just enough to make sure the setup is good and that intonation is great, which I can do now. I mean, it's playing perfectly, but this is not my guitar. So I'm going to forego any big to-do about the sound of this guitar. Now, if you want to hear what these pickups sound like, go back to my Glenn Hansard 65 Jag video. That is a great example of these exact pickups. Same staggered pickups, same kind of off-white covers. I would encourage you to listen to that video because I'm just not going to try it on this one. However, I do want to say that this thing this is a dream come true. Charcoal Frost, one of the unsung heroes of the Fender custom color lineup. And my God, Mike, you sell this, you let me know. You let me know, and then maybe we'll get a sound sample because it'll be mine and I won't care about the finish quite as much. But yeah, this thing rules. It is beautiful. It's got a great weight. The neck is skinny nut territory. Shout out to the patrons, skinny nuts. And yeah, this is just a fantastic little instrument. Oh, and the mute works. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for celebrating with me as I work on an extremely cool guitar. And thanks for letting me come tell you about it, because the first thing I want to do when I see something rad is tell you just how happy it makes me. So thanks for sharing in that. Shout out to the patrons, as I did before, and thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate you coming back to the channel again and again. I'm gonna wrap this up, get this guitar back in its case, and take my vibrato arm back so that I don't lose it for the rest of my life. But before I go, I want to say I hope you're taking care of yourselves and each other, and I will see you in the next video.